Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our July 1st, 2026 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. Paper copies of the agenda are available for those who are here in person, back on the table by the doors you came through, and a full packet is available on our website. Reviewing our full agenda, first we will consider our consent agenda, which there are just 3 items on this evening. After that, we'll have general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues that are not on today's agenda, but otherwise relevant to county business. Given our limited time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we do apply certain rules regarding public comments. We will do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. Each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we will accept public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission, and we reserve the right to mute and remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during the public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and residence for our meeting minutes if comfortable doing so, and please address your comments to the commission. We will hear from people who are here in person first, then we'll look to our Zoom meeting attendees. Please use the raise your hand function if you wish to provide your public comment virtually. Please also know that comments received by the commission during our meeting do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comments on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we will try and get specific questions answered. After general public comment concludes, we'll move on to our regular business agenda for tonight. We have 2 items on that agenda. For each action item, we will hear from staff or an applicant, followed by questions from the commission, and then we will open the floor for public comment that is relevant to that item specifically. Once public comment is concluded, we will bring the item back to the commission for further discussion and a vote on any action items. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. That, commissioners, jump right into the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to remove anything for questions or comments? Okay. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to remove anything from the consent agenda? No virtual hands, right, Sarah? Okay, we'll bring it back to the commission for motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. With that, we'll move on to general public comment. Is there anybody here who wishes to provide general public comment? Come on up, John. You can kick us off.
John M. 66049. Is that what you wanted? Is the homeless program a place for everyone's reaching its goal to reduce homelessness? Or, as some citizens are talking to me during this election season, is it a waste? Let's look at the 2026 Homeless Management Information System. March of this year, 485 souls. April, 511 souls. May, 527 souls. Look further back for trend data compared to January 2023, 142 souls, or February 2023, 148 souls. It's not going down. Are we reducing reliance on criminal justice involvement? For one example, look at Union on the Loop. Police calls, 2025, over 1,000 calls, averaging 107 per month, peaking at 137 in April, and never below 82 in any one month. Is APFE a demonstration of our compassion? Just last week in this chamber, we learned of the 154 chronic homeless with complex behavioral health needs who cycle through homeless shelters, emergency departments, and other crisis services. We like to say we are compassionate, but those people continue to cycle, or worse, they get stuck in jail. A meaningful program outcome would show within 24 months of placement sustained reductions in emergency service use and law enforcement contact, reduced voucher reliance over time, and a measurable increase in earned income or documented clinical stabilization. None of these are currently tracked or reported. Some argue that large cities may be deliberately allowing homelessness to increase. This strategy is believed to be aiming for public support for costly housing solutions. The idea is that by showcasing the growing crisis, government officials can create a sense of urgency that leads voters to approve significant funding for homeless initiatives. But surely this cannot be the case here in Douglas County and the city of Lawrence. There is a larger discussion regarding the effectiveness of current homelessness policies. Critics of existing strategies, such as the Housing First approach, suggest that these methods have not adequately addressed the root causes of homelessness. Many believe that the focus on housing without addressing immediate needs, such as addiction, has led to a worsening situation. Again, surely this cannot be the case here in Douglas County and Lawrence. Finally, is a growing frustration among the public regarding homelessness management. For instance, a significant majority of Washington state voters, Phoenix County voters, and others feel that current strategies have failed and that the homeless crisis has worsened over time. This sentiment reflects a desire for more effective solutions rather than just temporary measures, such as offering shelter beds for 2 to 3 days at a time. Have you considered that these voter feelings are also the case here in Douglas County and the city of Lawrence?
Thank you for your comments. Excuse me, is there anybody else here for general public comment? Excuse me. Anybody raise their hand, Sarah? All right, we'll close general public comment. And with that, move right on into our regular agenda. And our first item is a planning item. I'm going to
Actually-
turn it over to staff.
Yes, Commissioners, the first item is a request from the City of Lawrence related to a Neighborhood Revitalization Act area. So invite Susie Carson with the City of Lawrence to come up to give the presentation.
I did. It's up. Sure. Okay, get set. Good evening, Commissioners. As Sarah said, my name is Susie Carson, and I serve as the Director of Economic Development for the City of Lawrence. Recently, the City Commission considered this request on June 9th for a neighborhood revitalization area. I am here this evening to provide an overview of the city's review process and the project for the county's consideration. Okay, the purpose of the presentation tonight is to provide an overview of the redevelopment project requesting the incentive, review the eligibility under the Kansas Neighborhood Revitalization Act, summarize the fiscal impacts and project feasibility findings, summarize the City Commission action, and then outline the County Commission discussion that will be before you tonight. A little bit about the project itself. Alarm.com is an existing Lawrence employer providing technology jobs. They currently employ 37 employees in Lawrence and are proposing to expand through the adaptive reuse of the building at 714 Vermont Street. The project would create approximately 13,800 square feet of Class A office space and support an addition of 30 jobs. The company reports an average salary of approximately $90,000 and an annual payroll exceeding $4.7 million. This is the property. It's located at 714 Vermont Street, as you can see on the screen. It's in downtown Lawrence, approximately 1 block to the west on Mass Street. The building has previously been used as a commercial garage and later as a climbing gym. The proposed project, again, would convert the existing structure into modern Class A office space while also retaining and reactivating an existing downtown building and business. This slide shows the current interior condition of the building. The project involves substantial rehabilitation requiring replacement of all structural trusses and modernization to convert the building into productive office space. This will require private investment and present a higher cost than a typical office build-out. Some of the project considerations that the city of Lawrence took into its review is that it does support a retention of an existing employer within a targeted area. It brings additional daily employment activity into downtown area, and it supports adaptive reuse of an existing structure. Alarm.com originally requested a neighborhood revitalization area rebate of 95% for 15 years. After reviewing and considering a variety of factors, the City Commission ultimately approved city participation at 80% for 10 years. Under Kansas statute, a property may qualify for an NRA when a building or improvement should be preserved, restored to productive use because of age, history, architecture, or significance. City staff did ultimately determine that this property satisfied the eligibility criteria. The building we're talking about was originally constructed around 1948. It is the former University Ford Sales Building, and it is identified in the historic resources of Lawrence Douglas County of 1945 to 1975, Lawrence Modern architect. This proposed project would preserve and reactivate the building through rehabilitation and, again, adaptive reuse. As part of the city's review process, we did bring in an independent third-party financial analysis. That analysis did ultimately conclude that the project does not achieve marketed supported return thresholds without incentive participation. The city also considered the broader redevelopment factors previously stated and the protection of the existing tax base that comes with an NRA, which we'll get into in just a minute. This next slide, the current appraised value of the asset is approximately $1.8 million. Those were based off of 2025 estimates. The estimated post-renovation assumption was approximately $4 million, resulting in estimated incremental value of approximately 2.1. If that valuation is lower than assumed, the rebate is also lower, which we'll get into in a minute, but this is a performance-based incentive. The NRA preserves the existing tax base by ensuring property taxes generate from the property's pre-improvement value continue to flow to all taxing jurisdictions, and only taxes generated from the increase in assessed value are eligible for the rebate. Under the approved city structure, 80% of the incremental property tax would be rebated during the period, and 20% of the increment would be retained by the taxing jurisdiction. This is an illustration of the county portion, again, based on those assumptions. The county would continue to receive 100% of the current existing property taxes, which you can see in the dark blue area below. If the redevelopment does go through as proposed, the county would also retain that approximately 20%, again, based on the assumptions, which is that teal blue. And then the remaining 80% of the increment would be rebated according to the NRA program. Of course, after the NRA program is terminated, after those 10 years, the full property tax amount is retained by all taxing jurisdictions, as you can see in year 11. This slide is just to simply to illustrate the difference between the property as it exists today and what the applicant is ultimately proposing. The applicant has stated that the project faces feasibility challenges without incentives, but ultimately staff cannot determine if the project would move forward without it or in a different form or at a different scale. Ultimately, that decision would remain with the applicant. This incentive is structured to be performance-based, as originally stated. The NR benefit is contingent upon project completion and the creation of new taxable value. The rebate is only paid after eligible property taxes are generated and then paid. To review the City Commission's action, the City Commission approved the neighborhood revitalization agreement on June 9th of this year at 80% for 10 years. The proposed cooperative agreement allows each taxing jurisdiction to independently determine whether to they participation, and if so, at what level. That decision is ultimately the decision before the County Commission this evening. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions related to the city's review process, the City Commission action, or the proposed NRA structure. Representatives of the applicant are also present this evening, and with the chair's permission, they would like to provide additional comments.
Good tee up. Thank you, Susie. I'm just going to invite the applicants, if they're here, to come up and provide any additional information to the commission, and then we'll ask questions.
Perfect. With that, I will introduce Brendan Allen. He is a representative of Alarm.com, and he would like to say a few words.
So first off, thank you for your time tonight.
Make sure you talk right into that microphone for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyway, thank you for your time tonight. Brendan Allen, as was mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Software at Alarm.com, right across the street right now. So I joined about 7 years ago. We had 3 people in an office next to the Bourgeois Pig, and we since expanded into that office and have been looking for the last 2 years to expand further. And so that led us to the Journal World building and some other things, but now we've settled on this, and it's allowing us to grow because right now, we're on top of each other in our current building. So being able to have more space is really impactful for us. I've been able to sell to so we're based out of DC, in Tyson's Corner in Virginia. And I've been able to sell to my bosses and people there that Lawrence is a good place because number one, we've got a great pipeline from KU. Myself, I'm a KU grad, and I did stay here at a job, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity for jobs for me when I came out of college. So I felt I had to go somewhere else. So I think being able to provide those jobs and keep that pipeline to KU is really important for our community because there's not a lot of these jobs, at least in my experience. So I think that's really important. We're also competing. So we have other offices in Greenville, South Carolina, Austin, some other places like that. They're also competing for the same kind of jobs we are. And so they're offering incentives, they're doing things like that. So anything we can do to help, I think is useful for our expansion here. And again, I think they're good jobs. We kind of, again, go across a different range. We've got call center jobs. We've also got full engineering jobs, and we've got kind of a mix in between. So with this expansion, we'd be able to add another at least 30 jobs is what we're hoping for, and then maybe more in the future. We actually have room in that building to expand later if we need to. So that's important as well. The other thing I would add, I guess, as far as economic expansion. So I kind of noted down here, we have people that work in this office that actually moved here from Colorado. We have an office there. Someone moved here for a job. We have people that moved here from Minnesota as well, where we had an office. So, and then Texas as well. And so 35% of our people commute from Kansas City too. And I would say those are dollars that we wouldn't have. They're down walking on mass, they're spending money. They're incentivizing the community as well. So yeah, I guess that's my spiel. It's been really good to be able to grow this in Lawrence, and I hope we can continue to do that.
Thank you, Brendan. If you want to stay there for just a minute, I'm going to check and see if commissioners have any questions for the applicant while he's up here. And then certainly, Susie, you come on back up too, because we might have questions for you.
I have a few questions. I'm not sure who would like to take them. Actually, you answered many of my questions about kind of the connection to Lawrence and kind of that dedication to Lawrence, because of course, anytime that we do kind of incentive package and look at something like this, we want to make sure that they're going to stay past the incentive period and be on the tax rolls at the full value for a long period of time and with those jobs. So you covered some of those things. The one I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure who wants it, is Susie mentioned about needing to change out the trusses, that there's some structural issues, and maybe that's a Paul question. All right, thanks.
Yeah, so in Susie's presentation, she showed some pictures of the trusses. So this was an auto car dealership years ago that spans the whole space. So we need to redo all of those. As she also mentioned, it's a car dealership, there's a woodworking shop, granite shop, and the climbing gym. None of those are an office. So this is actually a pretty significant change, which is awesome. As Brendan said, we looked for 2 years for a different building. So I'm glad they landed on this, but these major trusses that were in the pictures is a pretty big fix to keep going further. So to their point, the hope is to keep adding employees, and we would actually put a second floor in. So that's why we want to do that work now, because we certainly don't want to do that when there's, 70 people already working there. So this is good. Yeah.
So the change is mostly for the adaptive reuse. Is the building structurally sound as it is?
Yes, it's an awesome building.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's to make sure that it's useful for these other uses.
Yes, and so we can keep adding more, and we can add more people with a second floor, which clearly the auto dealership did not anticipate and did not need. So yes, it's good, but it's a pretty significant piece of work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Fleming. I'm the attorney for the applicant, and just like to add that, our budget for this project is about $6 million, and you saw up there on the slide that when we get done with it, we're going to have a $4 million asset. So, that's part of the reason we're asking for the assistance, is the fact that we're going to spend quite a bit of money here to make this a Class A first class building, and so that's part of the reason that they're making this request to do this. So I just want to make sure that we're aware of that situation, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Brendan, I'm curious to Commissioner Willie's point kind of about the longevity of the company. Not all things are predictable, certainly. But, you mentioned several moves and expansions have already happened within the community. I guess one clarifying question I have is, are any of those buildings that you've owned and done work to, or have you been leasing different spaces to make it work?
Yeah, we did not. The current building we're in, Matt Gilhausen, who you're probably familiar with, owns. And so he did the renovation, built the spec, and we rent it. This one, though, and I think that's why it's also compelling, is that we're buying this building. So because we want to be here for a long time. I'm originally from Lawrence. This is where I want to stay. And so it's a commitment, I think, from Alarm to do that.
So, and when I'm going to ask you more questions, just make sure you talk right into that mic for us. Sorry. It just helps with taking minutes. So I know we all hear you well, but it's helpful for the record. Speaking of the possibility for expansion and the fact that this building would allow for that, and to your point, would be purchased and owned. And so that's a pretty significant investment and intention to stay. What capacity would it give you for growth? And does it feel like it kind of meets the foreseeable future of how much the company, this particular location of the company would expand? Did that question make sense? I guess you've moved multiple times because you're running out of space.
Yeah.
Do you have any concern? Let me rephrase. Do you have any concern that you could run out of space in this place, even with the addition of a second floor in 10 years' time?
Right. To be honest, I hope that's the problem that we have.
Fair.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't have thought we would have outgrown the place we are in, but it's been very compelling. Like the people we've been able to get from the University of Kansas, the people from Kansas City to commute in and do stuff has been very compelling. So we grew faster than I thought. And in fact, had we been able to get into this space probably sooner, we'd probably be, instead of 38, we'd be 50 already.
Okay. That's what I was just going to ask you, is what are your staff numbers at? So you just said about 38 now.
Right.
And that's what these plans build out for, about how many people without the second floor that you're sort of alluding to the possibility of?
60 or 70. And I think it could go to 90 with the full.
With the second floor. Okay. So it's a doubling, almost tripling potential for capacity. Okay.
Like I said, I hope I have that. That'd be great.
And I will add to that, that would be awesome if they continue to grow and move. The incentive is tied to the property itself. So even if they did vacate that, the incremental value would be there, and the property, the asset would still remain in the community. And if you want to keep expanding, let's talk. So, yeah.
Thank you for that point, Susie. Commissioners, other questions?
You mentioned that you started back several years ago at the Bourgeois Pig. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Our office was next to the Bourgeois Pig.
Okay.
It was above the dentist. That isn't a dentist anymore. Yeah. Yeah, so we were above that. We looked at refinishing that and doing that, but we landed on the space above Silas and Maddie's. And the problem there was now we can't expand. There's there's retail space below it. And so then we started looking for a new one. And we're kind of at this interesting point where there's not a lot of space near downtown. So we considered that downtown was like a big recruiting tool. So when people come down here, either to visit or come from KU or wherever, and they see downtown, they want to be down here. We looked at West Lawrence, we did some stuff there, but I'm not going to convince someone to commute from Kansas City to go to West Lawrence and the business park out there. They need to be downtown. And so finding that spot downtown with the right size for a medium-sized business like this has been really tough.
And is this Alarm.com's first request for an incentive package?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to know.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And a question for Susie, I think. The value of the property in 10 years, where did that estimate come from?
So we used assumptions based on our third-party independent analysis review that looked at existing Class A office space within Lawrence, which is approximately 131,500 square foot of Class A office space. So we looked at that with comparables, and they came up with that assumption. Then we used a 3% annual growth rate based on those assumptions and just moved it out. Again, if those assumptions are lower than what is presented, then ultimately the incentive would be lower as well.
Well, my point is the actual value could be much greater than you've guessed.
It could be up or down, correct? This is just an assumption, correct?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Couple questions. So it might be Susie or anybody probably can answer it. The request for the NRA, were there any other requests that went before the city commission that don't necessarily come here, like for sales tax abatement or anything like that?
Correct. There were two requests with this project. It was the NRA and then the IRB for sales tax exemption. They were ultimately, the city commission did approve both. It is a one-time sales tax exemption on construction projects, and I can provide additional information about that incentive if the commission would like.
And the 30 jobs, so that's just based on building the business projections, and that's kind of how the business is justifying putting this investment in and in the larger space. But there's nothing that needs to tie back to, there are no metrics that need to be tied back to performing that because we're just based on the value of the building, correct?
That is a great question. And yes, I do believe there are some incentive that need to be tied to performance. This one is based on the asset and the fact that they have to create the incremental value to ultimately receive that rebate. And again, if Alarm.com was to move businesses, move buildings, that asset is still there and that incremental value is still there. So in this way, this incentive being performance-based stays with the asset, which stays within the community. So I would not recommend tying it to that metric, but that is my thoughts, and the commission may weigh that differently.
And so the 30 jobs that are predicted, there's actually space for another 30 jobs, like within that space, is that?
Yes, so right now they have 37 or 38 employees. 38, they are projecting approximately 30 additional employees, and I think they said up to 90. So I believe that would take us to, 68? And then there's an additional, 20 something in there, 22. Am I doing my math right on the spot? Okay. 22 employees, yes.
Okay.
We would have
Got
to
it.
make some additional investment.
Just a note, make sure not make any comments unless you're in the microphone just
Oh, sorry.
for minutes. Thank you. Commissioners, you have more questions? Sorry.
I have a final question, and that's for Brendan. Really, you're not keeping any climbing wall as part of this office space?
No, it's disappointing. They did move it. We were going to keep it as like a feature on the thing. It would have been great. So we got to figure out a new thing now. But yeah, I was hoping to get in there before they moved it, but they moved it already.
It would interfere with the second floor.
We are
possibly?
planning on keeping the mural, so the mural doesn't go away.
All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have for the moment.
Question for Susie. On the slide that you have that shows the 20% that can you give me those numbers, like what that would be? I mean, I can get a general, it's between 20 and 30, but is it like $4,000 that we're getting that we wouldn't get? 5,000? You see what I'm saying?
So based on the assumptions,
Yeah.
Which again are assumptions, I am estimating that the county's portion in the rebate is approximately $215,000 to developers over 10 years, and the county's portion would be approximately $54,000. Again, based on the assumption, in addition to the 100% of existing tax bases.
Okay.
And then, of course, year 11, the entirety
Right.
would be to all taxing jurisdictions. Correct.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Well, thank you all for answering our questions. You're welcome to go back to the gallery, and we will open this item up for public comment. Is there anybody here in the building today that wishes to provide public comment on this agenda item?
All right, I'm going to speak a little bit out of turn because I'm not an expert in the topic, but I watch these buildings and they're affordable housing. And I know this is not affordable housing, this is jobs. But I watch these go through Lawrence all the time. Huge tax deals. I'm not at all convinced that they usually work out in favor of the taxpayer. I don't know if this particular arrangement pushes the employer to guarantee they're going to have this number of jobs. If we net out as taxpayers in a positive way, or we have to wait till 11 years from now to see any result. And in the meantime, we're making up the difference. So I would just like to know that the commission closely examines the math to make sure that it works for taxpayers. Thank you.
Anybody else here for public comment? Reminder, if anybody's listening online, to use the raise your hand function, please.
Commissioners, good evening. Steve Kelly speaking on behalf of the EDC of Douglas County and also referencing the chamber. I have had considerable involvement with not specifically this building and this portion of the project, but with work with Brandon from the time they moved initially up to this point. And I would strongly recommend that this be something that the commission look on favorably. This is a really good company. I've spoken with corporate executives. They really like the location, but Brendan is very humble and hasn't taken enough credit. He's been a big part of the drive that's got this to the point that where we are outgrowing the buildings that we're in and need additional space. He has done a lot of really positive things that I think have impressed leadership, and this facility has performed well. And you know, a lot of the people that are working there are KU grads, so that we're able to keep and retain some of this young talent that's coming through the community. They're excellent jobs, and there is a variety of jobs. There's from the call center jobs, which are actually very well paying call center jobs, up to engineers that are making $115,000, $120,000 a year and more. So I think this is the kind of company that we need more of. You know, we have a pretty strong underground or kind of under the wraps sort of a technology hub here. Brendan's also been very involved with that. And I think this, again, allows us to kind of point out the fact that we are a place where technology jobs can come and can do well. And I think this kind of an effort should be supported, particularly when you're doing something with a building that, you know, I don't know how many people are lined up for the reuse of the old climbing wall building, but I think this is a very creative way to use it and to get some density in terms of the number of employees that we have in high-paying jobs. So I would urge that you give this the strongest consideration and allow it to move forward.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else here in the room with us to provide public comment on this item? Okay, anybody raise their hand, Sarah? All right, close public comment and bring it back to the commission for any additional questions that might have bubbled to the surface, comments, discussion, motion.
I don't know if Susie wants to come back up. And this is, you know, a conversation that we have in the community quite a bit about what these incentives are and what they are not, and that they are not dollars that come from the public and go to a private company. Talk again, just cover that again about how these work.
Correct. So this would be if the company does go forward with this project, then that new incremental value is created. And that's what the rebate comes back from. If the company ultimately does not get the opportunity to move or is restricted in that, you would not see that investment within the building, so the incremental value would not be there, nor would the jobs at the moment. Again, they may decide to work remotely, they may decide something else. That is ultimately up to the applicant, but correct, it is not cash dollars. It is only created if the improvement is done.
So we currently have the tax base of warehouse space, and we're looking to gain the tax bases, the tax base of office space, which is of higher value. So it'll be a $4 million.
So it's all commercial based on that. Yeah, based on that. But correct, they would improve, create additional value based on the Class A office space from what it is now to the proposed project. I guess if I answered that.
But theoretically, without investment in the property and without good use of it or unstable use of it, the property value could go down and we would be collecting less taxes on it, correct?
Absolutely, 100%. It's ultimately, or sometimes, I shouldn't say ultimately, it is sometimes a misconception that an NRA can't be used until a property is dilapidated. Then it takes so much more to put into it. Actually finding a building that is of significance to the community and continuing to give love to the asset is ultimately better for the community.
I had some thoughts to share with, thank you, that's have the moment. I had some thoughts to share with with commissioners, and I know we have looked at some of these that have to do with housing and affordable housing and other businesses too, but one of the conversations that's been here is that it's the additional EMS response that becomes part of can the increment that we're gaining cover the additional EMS response. And I'd have to say, in terms of the use of climbing gym versus office space, we may not have more EMS calls out of that particular use. When we're outing housing and housing density, that's just a conversation we have to have in terms of we cover, that property costs X amount of dollars for from the county resources, that EMS response, and then what's that change look like? So I'm very comfortable with that from that perspective, and that's just a little easier conversation than we've had over some of the other similar properties or similar requests.
I'll say, I think that there's a lot to like about this NRA, and I appreciate the idea that we can keep a company here who has grown here and doesn't outgrow our community. I think that's a big positive, certainly revitalization of a downtown building that seems like it will be stable or adapted to reuse, that will be very appealing to future entities who might want to move in there. But I just want to highlight that, one thing I really appreciate about this request is that it is an 80% request, and that is worth noting because I didn't bother to go back and do a tally in my time as a commissioner, but we've seen a lot of requests for 95% and not much budging on that, if you will, or negotiating space or willingness from the applicant to think about that differently. And so I just really want to appreciate that is the direction that this is taken with the conversation at the City Commission, and that an 80%, that it's a significant additional gain for the community, and this seems to really still provide the company, the applicant, what they need in order to make this investment into our community and stabilize their workforce here and their place here. So just wanted to appreciate that out loud. We kind of skimmed over it briefly without the context of all the other NRAs that this commission or other tax incentive packages we've considered, but NRA specifically, 80% stands out, and I appreciate that.
I'd echo that. I have been known to be a little grumpy over 95% requests. And again, I'm weighing is the additional increment that's coming to the county in the short term enough to cover the additional needs that are generated there. I very much like that the work was done to kind of right size this to an 80% and 10-year request instead of a 95% request and 15 years. So I thanks for giving that a shout out. That matters to me too.
And I like the fact that this is your first request, and you're also a call center, and it's hard to run a call center. When you have a call center, compassion fatigue is a real risk, and the fact that you have a call center that people want to live here, people want to be here, people want to work at alarm.com. And so having a call center where well-being is a priority for you, and you have individuals that want to work there, and you want to grow your business, that's really important. And the fact that you already have a pipeline of individuals that you can draw from, and individuals that want to move here and work here at your company, that's huge. And so that's something that we do want to continue to promote and to help you grow. And for that very reason, that's something that I want to support.
We have talked here before about broadening our tax base and not putting so much burden on our residents. And this is how we do it. We have to retain the business. So thank you for wanting to stay in our community. And then we need to get them to expand because that increases the value of the business. I share with Commissioner Willie and Commissioner Reed's comments about being frustrated at 95. That seemed to be almost the default the last couple of times. And it's great to see that we're making some movement on it, because then we can see an immediate result, a much more tangible. That's why I was asking for actual numbers, like a much more tangible number than that 5%, which is pretty small, because that's what our taxpayers want to know, is that as we're getting this incentive, we're also getting something not 15 years down the road, but maybe something right away. And 20% is much better for right away, and 10 years is not as bad as 15. So I appreciate our economic development partners who worked on this work to get this to where it is today, and to identify tools that are helping to keep businesses here and expanding, so we can broaden our tax base and put less demand on our residents.
I'm also really appreciative over the location. I think it'd be easy for that location to be misused if it were empty for a long period of time. I think this is a great use of it. So I'm really supportive, and thank you for bringing the jobs and for having a dedication to Lawrence that we can kind of see and understand and kind of put some trust in. So I appreciate all of that, and I would make a motion if we're ready. Okay. All right. I move to approve county participation in a 10-year, 80% neighborhood revitalization area NRA for alarm.com located at 714 Vermont, Lawrence, Kansas, and authorize the county administrator to execute a cooperative agreement with the city of Lawrence, Douglas County, and USD 497.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Great. Passes unanimously. Thank you all for being here. With that, commissioners, we will move on to item 3.2. And I think I'm going to turn this over to Sarah.
Thank you, commissioners. I will kick this off. Commissioners, you had an extensive discussion about this topic several weeks ago. We do not have a whole lot more to add to that discussion, other than since that time, county staff has continued to meet both with the district attorney and with DCF, so the Department of Children and Families with the state. We had a very great conversation with DCF. The main purpose of the MOU that will need to be modified if the commission votes for this project is to make sure that notification can go to the district attorney's office earlier and initially upon receiving the 1006 form, and not have to wait until it goes through the DCF process and is ultimately rejected, and then turned back over. So the MOU allows early intervention, and it allows us to work earlier in the process to continue to try to reach kids quicker. That is our main update. So at this point, I turn it back over to commissioners for questions and public comment.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, this opportunity for any questions about the update we just heard from Sarah. I'm going to look to you, Commissioner Willie, as the person who wasn't here last time, to see if there's any questions that you have that are left unanswered from the discussion that you I'm sure watched and heard us have.
It was thoroughly entertaining. So yes, I'm aware of the discussion that happened while I was away, and I appreciate all of that. I've had a chance to check in with a great deal of people in the community and with staff of to get some of my questions answered. And frankly, I'm okay to go to public comment and then kind of bring that back for our conversation if you want to. I may still have questions after that are triggered, but
Sure.
I'm good
Thanks.
for that.
Just want to make sure you didn't have any top of mind. Commissioners, since we had such extensive discussion before, are you okay with us moving into public comment and then coming back for discussion? Or do any commissioners have specific questions for staff first? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment and invite anybody who's here in the building first to come up. And it looks like the microphone is still unmuted, so you're ready to just start talking. Each have 3 minutes. And I think I see a sign up sheet over there. So come on up, Rick. Once you make your public comment, you can speak first. And then there's a sign up sheet you'll see right next to you, Rick. And if you all can just sign that after making comments, that'll be helpful for our meeting minutes. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I was not at your May 27th meeting, but I had a chance to listen to it. My condolences to the 4 of you who were here and had to suffer through that ordeal. But looking back, it's pretty clear to me that the process leading to the development of the proposed program was flawed. Criminal Justice Services was encouraged to develop this model on the assumption that the Center for Supportive Communities program would not be supported, and this was a huge error. Schools were not advised that there was a choice between CSC and the proposed program, and my understanding is that schools prefer the more robust CSC model. Also note that the DA has referred to the case management model as an outdated approach. So I'm here to advocate for continued funding for the Center for Supportive Communities. I want to know why we are entertaining an untested model when we have a proven and evidence-based program in place that is data-driven. Continuing to support the work of CSC is in the best interest of youth and families, in Douglas County, and represents an ideal public-private partnership. Their track record reflects outcomes showing significant reductions in truancy and chronic absenteeism. So it's critical that we have a focus on upstream interventions. Consideration of the Everyday Counts program should not replace in any way, shape, or form the CSC contract. Everyday Counts is untested, and it's unclear what data this model was based on. The case managed model is not a sufficient response to the problems we face with truancy. Without an upstream focus, the proposed case management system is only dealing with the consequences of youth trauma and family dysfunction. You may need a program like that, but not in place of the more robust program that CSC is offering. We must get ahead of the problem. CSC's proven model is the path forward. Thank you. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
We don't have any questions for
Okay.
you, but you're welcome to sign in. And anybody else here who would like to provide public comment, go ahead and come on up.
Good evening. I'm a parent in Douglas County whose child has been on the Support Ed program. And I was going to start out my remarks tonight by saying, well, our family's situation is unique, but
Can you be
it
sure to
occurred
state
to
your name
me.
for the record? Sorry, can you just state your name for the record for
Oh.
minutes?
Do I have to?
At least a first name would be great if you're
Danielle.
comfortable. Thank you.
Danielle, I'm sorry. No, you're good. But it occurred to me that every single one of these situations is unique. And that's why this mentorship program model is so desperately needed. When these kids are assigned a mentor, it's not just case management. In my child's case, the mentorship program made it a point to assign a mentor that shared similar interests that they related to and respected. And honestly, I feel like that respect was mutual between the mentor and my child. For example, my child's first mentor was a pre-med student, and my child has a lifelong chronic illness, and he has a lot of opinions and a lot of knowledge about it. And I think he enjoyed teaching his mentor about that condition as much as they enjoyed learning about it as a, future medical professional. So not only that, by meeting with them and reaching out once a week and us too, they develop a very in tune relationship that's very valuable. They know the child's personality, they know their interests, they know their goals, etc. They have a finger on the pulse of what's occurring in these kids' lives. They add personalized solutions, and they actually stand a chance of resolving their truancy issues without it escalating to the judicial system. And if we're being honest, it's not just helping the kids, although, that's the primary focus. It's also allowing future professionals like doctors and social workers to have practical real-world experience working with and listening to kids in the future. So the benefits to Douglas County, in my opinion, are twofold. So it's my understanding that in the new funding model, that if the mentorship model goes away, it reverts back to just 2 juvenile services officers. And we've had a fair amount of communication with them, and they're professional, they're great. But I can assure you that if these 2 officers are asked to take on even a moderately high caseload, the personalization that the mentorship program provides goes away. And I mean, honestly, how could it not? It sets everyone up for failure and any realistic chances that these cases are resolved. Those crucial relationships go away along with the personalized solutions because there's simply not enough hours in the day for that workload. When you ask people to do less with less, the program as a whole is going to be diminished, and ultimately it's the kids that are going to lose out.
That's your time. Your public comments over.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here who would like to provide public comment?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jamie, Jami Clark, Clark. I am a parent here in Douglas County. I am not someone who normally will attend these types of meetings. However, when I heard that the CSC support program might be replaced, I knew I had to come tonight, so thank you for your time. I've listened to previous conversations about truancy programming. I've heard arguments, which program would be best. But what I didn't hear is what is actually best for the children and the families of Douglas County. That is the conversation we need to have tonight. My son participated in the support ed, and like you heard from the previous parent, every case and every family is unique. That is something that Douglas County prides itself on. There were a lot of complexities around why he was referred to the program, not just not showing up. He was refusing to go to school because he was being bullied by several students. He was refusing to ask for help. He was frightened, and school had become a place that was not safe for him. I was doing everything that I could, and as a parent, I am very resourceful, and I was having a hard time finding support. I watched our mornings turn into something I dreaded. I watched our families come apart over something that I didn't know how to fix. When support ed reached out to us, I expected someone to hand me a packet of papers and say, here you go, good luck, read. But that wasn't the case. We actually had them in our home. They actually sat with us. They actually learned our child's name, the family member dynamic, and their names and their roles, and my son's support system. The mentor would call every night just to check in to see how my son's day went. And then eventually that turned from nightly to weekly. He walked through us having very difficult mornings because he was another resource for myself. He sat with my son during a hard moment. He explained to me as a parent what that was happening to my son because I wasn't understanding. Because that was the background and the education the mentor supported us with. He helped my son feel like someone at school actually cared, whether he walked through the door or not. Only after 3 weeks, my son was going to school consistently. He was doing homework. He agreed to go to therapy. So I want to take it back to what is best for the children, impact versus unintended consequences. I'm not the only family, but there are others out there that need the support of this program. We need advocacy. Thank you. I'm here for questions.
We don't have any questions for you, but thank you for your comments.
Thank you for your vote no.
If you don't mind putting your name on the list, it'd be great. Thank you. Is there anybody else here who would like to provide public comment? Okay, seeing nobody. Yep. We won't erase. Okay. One last call for anybody in the building. Not seeing anybody stand up. Do we have any virtual hands, Sarah? Okay.
Maria Alter Morano, you are in the panel and you can provide public comment.
Good evening. My name is Livia. I'm here with Maria, who is going to provide public comment in Spanish, and I will then translate for her.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Altamirano y soy madre de 2 hijos que participaron en el programa de Support. Mi hija que está en 3er grado y mi hijo que está en 8º grado. Support marcó una gran diferencia para toda nuestra familia. Tener mentores y personal que hablan español significó muchísimo para nosotros. Cada semana se reunían con mis hijos, construían relaciones de confianza, les enseñaban importantes habilidades sociales y los motivaban a explorar sus intereses y a involucrarse más en nuestra comunidad. Gracias a este apoyo mejoró la asistencia escolar de mis hijos y también su bienestar general. El apoyo también se extendió a mí como madre. Los mentores me brindaron herramientas prácticas para establecer rutinas y crear la estructura que mis hijos necesitaban para asistir a la escuela de manera constante. Me animaron y me ayudaron a fortalecer la relación con las escuelas de mis hijos. Les pido respetuosamente que preserven el programa Support. Por favor, protejan este programa para que otras familias puedan recibir el mismo apoyo que nosotros recibimos y voten en contra de reemplazarlo con el modelo propuesto de manejo de casos. Muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Good evening. My name is Maria Altamirano. I'm the mother of 2 children who participated in the Support Ed program. My daughter who is in 3rd grade and my son who is in 8th grade. Support Ed made a real difference for our entire family. Having Spanish-speaking mentors and staff mean everything to us. Every week they met with my children, built trusting relationships, taught them important social skills, and encouraged them to explore their interests and become more involved in our community. They helped improve my children's school attendance and their overall well-being. The support also extended to me as a parent. The mentors gave me practical tools and create routines and provide the structure my children needed to attend school consistently. They encouraged me, helped me build a stronger relationship with my children's schools. I respectfully ask you to preserve the Support Ed program. Please protect this program so other families can receive the same support we did, and please vote no on replacing it with the proposed case management model. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else raise their hand, Sarah? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions of staff, additional comments and discussion.
After the last meeting, we had some kind of follow-up communication from the DA, and I don't know if you wanted to come up and address any thoughts that you had that maybe you didn't feel like got expressed at the last meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Dakota Loomis, Douglas County District Attorney. Following the last meeting we had, I had shared an email with the County Commission and staff regarding I think something I was remiss in not mentioning when I was being questioned last time regarding the current program and the proposed program that staff has developed. And primarily that was that regardless of support ed, each day counts or each day matters. The core function for our office, the person we deal with day in, day out from the district attorney's office, is Kate Holman over at Youth Services. And the consistent person that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is Kate. She's the person who makes initial contact, who gets reports from schools, who fields all those reports, gets them to us, and then gets the students started in the program. And regardless of, and that'd be if it's for O'Connell Youth Services, if it's for CSC, everything goes through Kate. And for our office, the primary concern that we've had from the beginning on this is that we wanted to make sure and ensure that we were continuing to work with Kate, continue to be able to use her expertise, use her services for whatever the program form, whatever fashion it took, that we did not lose that connection with her, as we thought that's kind of the hub of this entire program. Also, and it's just on a personal note, I felt remiss not mentioning all the hard work that Kate has done over the years, and I've observed firsthand as the district attorney when the commission was asking us about the program. So just from a personal perspective and watching that's been developed over the last year, but really more importantly, watching what Kate does week in, week out, developing plans for students, working with CSC, working with O'Connell, and working with our office. I wanted to make sure that our office recognized the work that's being done in the last, well, at least for me, for the last year and a half that I've been in office, that I see that Kate and her teammates doing each and every week, and how that's been integral to my understanding of truancy and how I have been able to better assist our office in how we want to move forward with school districts, with the building principals, and whoever's assigned to report those truancies and children who are needing support services. And so from my perspective, I didn't have a chance to say that last time. I wanted to make sure that was something that not just the commissioners heard, but also the public and staff. So, and I'm also happy to answer any other questions that the commission may have, but I just want to make sure that was something that was expressed both to the commission and to the public.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question for Kate. Do you mind coming up and answering a question or two? Thanks for being here. So my recollection is that when we found that the budget request was high and we asked Criminal Justice Services to do the work, it was determined that for the last semester we would stay with these partners. Is that correct?
Commissioner, I think that's probably more of a question that was done above her
okay.
level. So yes, so that was the recommendation that Youth Services and Pam and Katie and I worked with Lee Houseman and put together.
Great. Okay. So, I mean, one thing we asked staff to do is to think about a program, and what we've heard tonight is there's a difference between the mentorship program and there's a difference between case management. And staff has said they think case management will be more effective than the mentorship program. And so my question was just going to be, tell us why we think that that's going to be more effective.
I think Kate can talk about the value of case management and her role in that. I just wanted to clarify the role.
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you ask the question again?
Sure. Yeah. So we've heard some public comment tonight that we don't think that some of our public commenters feel that case management is not going to be as effective as a mentorship model. We as a commission task you to sort of look at the program that we're using and make a recommendation. Can you tell us why you chose case management over mentorship?
Commissioner, we were tasked with the duty to explore opportunities for any type of model that would be available to put our youth and families in a successful position in returning to the school setting. Douglas County is so very unique, and it always has been. And we have the capability to have this mentoring model for years. And mentoring is very important. It benefits a lot with families and youth. Case management is important. Case management is something that is used in many communities. Case management is boots on the ground, getting their foot in the door, scheduling meetings. What services do you need? How can I be of help? What are the barriers? Where can I step in to help you? I take pride in establishing rapport with my families and letting them know how important it is that I'm not there to take their children away. I have a program here to divert this from going to court. That's all I'm here to do. How can I be of help? So I establish good rapport, relationships, and I provide case management services. And the 23 years that I've been with Douglas County, for 15, I've been providing the mentoring program. Mentorship is important. Case management is important as well. Again, many districts, jurisdictions utilize case management. Many jurisdictions utilize court, youth court, truancy court, family court. Douglas County has used this model. Case management is important just as well as mentorship is.
You mentioned that there are more models than just case management and mentorship. I know I want to not get ahead of our process, which we're going to look at budgets in just a few weeks, and we know we have some requests there. Can you talk to me about how giving you more tools and more possibilities, so is it like only case management works, or would you like to have the option to be able to do some mentorship or youth court, or,
I feel like I'm really being put in a position here because we were tasked to find an alternative. I am not ever going to go against the need for mentorship. I am not ever going to go against case management. Both collaborate very well. That's what Douglas County has been operating on for many, many, many years. I think both components are very important to the community, to our youth and our families.
Okay, thanks.
More of a comment. So I think part of what our youth services staff was tasked with was coming up with options within a dollar amount that we could afford. So it was not like dream big, what's on the table. It was, we were asked for a very large increase, some of which then became not needed by CSC as the partner was asking, but some of the other pieces were also in there of a large increase that we were having trouble in our conversation as commissioners at budget a year ago to make that fit. And so I think it wasn't that, give us everything. It was within this dollar amount, what can we be providing for kids? And I know this was mentioned in the previous meeting that, most of what Douglas County does and most of what counties do is kind of set by state statute, and we can decide how we do them, but we don't get to decide whether or not we do them. And this is one that is not required by state statute. This is something that Douglas County wanted to add as a kind of a safety net to fill in the gap between, students that were determined to be truant by the school district or by state law, and then that form is supplied to the courts. And is there some place in between from the time that 1006 form is filed to before it goes in front of a judge? Is there a space for Douglas County? And I don't have a direct question for you, Kate, if you want to sit down and we'll see if others.
I got a question.
Oh, sorry. I spoke out of turn. Go ahead.
How many people in your group speak Spanish?
We have Spanish speakers. We have one in our front office, and we have a handful of staff members who speak Spanish. in our facility.
We also have translation services available.
When somebody who can't speak English comes in, do you have these people available to help you out with their issues?
Of course.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Kate, commissioners? Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Any other questions for administration staff? Okay. Do you have a question, Commissioner?
No, everybody keeps looking at me. I don't want to make the assumption that commissioners hold the same positions that they held at the last meeting. So I don't want to kind of jump in to my space because I think there's been indications that other conversations have happened, and I'm sure that that's the case. And I don't know if other commissioners wanted to kind of weigh in on thoughts before you heard from me.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Willie. I'm just looking at you because you might have lingering questions that didn't get answered at our last meeting. That's all. My position is the same. I think that a couple of things are true, which is that I will reiterate, it matters to me that staff took direction from this commission to come up with this plan and bring us an option. That doesn't mean that the commission has to accept the option, but they did do as they were asked. And I think that given the totality of circumstances, that it's a pretty solid and straightforward program model to try out. And then the other truth that I would say is that change is hard, and the idea of changing how we do things is always painful in a variety of ways for a variety of reasons. And that is hard to muck through sometimes, but I think it's important to hold true the fact that change is not always bad, and sometimes it opens up other opportunities. So I think that there's, that the staff proposal meets the request that this commission, the direction and request for alternative programming and alternative options, that they did that, and that what is presented to us seems well-researched to me, and an understandable model to move forward with. And as we discussed last time, I mean, all we can do is assess whether or not that model is working the way that we hope for it to, achieving things differently, good or bad, and we can adjust along the way. I also think that there's opportunities for partnership with other community entities and with providers in the community who might still be working in this space and have contracts of their own with school districts. I think that there are opportunities for us to figure out what different types of partnership models look like into the future. But the streamlining a process and bringing it in-house to address this issue, that to Commissioner Willie's point of bringing back to the surface, we are electing to do because it matters, because it is, to Kate's point, something that has mattered to Douglas County for a long time, to invest in truancy programming, even though it is not required of us by the state. And that's sometimes often how we function in here, is doing things based on what the state requires us to do. Certainly not always, but so my position is really the same. I hear I hear the worry and pain felt about the potential loss of things and the potential negative effects of a change, but I also have confidence that in our staff to hold that fact true, and to be as mindful and delicate about those changes, and making sure that as many of the strengths that exist in the programming that has been established in the community over time, and the processes that CJS has already been involved in, is strengthened and further streamlined in a way that provides continuity and does allow for us to get a better grasp on what the outcomes are and how we're really impacting families in Douglas County.
Commissioner Willie and Commissioner Reed, I appreciate your comments. I don't necessarily see it the same way. do see the other model as more of a best practice and to be more fully researched. This particular model I do see as more of a test and learn and as an opportunity to see what we could potentially learn from this particular opportunity, and don't see it as a best practice. And it has been more pulled together disparately, bringing groups together that maybe should have come together in 2025, maybe a little bit sooner, to include our DCF stakeholders. And I am not in favor of a test and learn or a pilot that uses our young kiddos as guinea pigs.
I want to go back and start with how we ended up here in the budget meetings last year. CSC thought they had lost their AmeriCorps funding, and which basically would have doubled the county's responsibility to fund their program. So during one of our budget hearings, I'll quote exactly, we need to work on a plan B in case this doesn't come through, as to how we would approach truancy support or a middle school and elementary school kids. So then based on that, staff developed this new case management program. Since the last meeting, I've probably talked to between half a dozen and a dozen people, DA people, the court administration, panel attorneys, individuals, including a few with Justice Matters. And from all these conversations, what I took out of it is Kate needs more help, especially if the schools, all of the schools and 497 start reporting on the same basis. I think some schools currently report better than other schools, and I'm not confident that initially the workload is not going to go up from 80 cases. I have concerns that one person handling 80 cases is not going to work. Even with two, you've got 40 cases per person. And if you consider an hour per case per week, I don't think that provides enough time to staff. I would propose a hybrid system where we add one person to assist Kate and continue with the CSC program to provide additional mentoring. I don't think we want to try out a new program on our kiddos. I think we need an established program. And so my position hasn't changed from the current proposal.
Thanks. I appreciate, I appreciate folks kind of getting me back up to speed to see if there were any changes kind of in position. I'm kind of hearing similar to what we had out of the last meeting.
Well, I did change my proposal a little bit. I think Kate needs a helper, but I think that would be in addition to CSC's involvement.
This has been a big learning curve for me. This is something I had to dive into and talk with folks in the community for my learning curve. It was a lot of talk early on about, what is our lane and what is upstream work and who does the upstream work, and really kind of, coming to the realization that that everything before that 1006 form belongs to the schools and all the community supports that come into schools, and we're really leaning into what are they doing and are they talking to each other and talking to partners, et cetera. And I think there's been a lot of interest and work on that makes me happy. I think these have been hard conversations, but I think the bonus out of it has been, especially 497, from the leadership point of view, kind of leaning into these conversations in big ways. And I'm hoping that we continue that. I don't think we'll be done with the truancy conversation regardless of what goes tonight. But our lane at the county has been and will probably remain being with after that 1006. And if there's a way to offer some supports before it goes in front of a judge. There's been a lot of talk about, is this, criminalizing or not criminalizing? Like the state's already set the statute for what that law is. We've gotten that memorandum of understanding with DCF so that they will step back and allow some other supports to happen so that they're, which I think are a very scary set of letters in this conversation, that they're willing to step back and allow kind of Douglas County to work in this space a little bit. As I've had conversations, it really feels like Kate Holman is the secret sauce that you hear from all parties about like how much that work has meant to them. I expected to have kind of a bigger, more universal push from school partners, et cetera, on mentorship. And I was surprised not to, that much of it was, well, it's your program, so we haven't really looked at it, which puts us in a kind of a weird middle space between this, the schools and this program that we were funding. I think we have needed the ability to pivot and to be responsive to a changing conversation around truancy. I feel like we haven't had that with the partner we'd had, and not enough to pay more for it. We did cut nearly 1 mil of our mill levy last year in budget. This year is going to be a really tight conversation. When people talk about taxes, it means saying no to things that people care about. Those are hard conversations. We're going to have a lot of them over the next few weeks. That'll be painful. Like it's always, it means something to people, the work that we provide. I am in favor of moving forward with the program that we have asked staff to put together. I think they've been really responsive to the conversations with partners and schools as they've talked about what they want to see out of this. I think it gives us the ability to pivot to a different model if we need to, but I think that for the dollars that we've asked and provided for this, I think this is the way forward, and I will make a motion unless anyone wants.
I have some other comments.
I have a
Oh,
quick
sorry,
question.
sorry.
Do we even have a current MOU, being that the current MOU is signed by Valdez?
We will prepare an MOU once we have a program model. And we've already had conversations with DCF's attorneys and the district attorney's office. So we'll prepare a model after that.
Okay, so in my experience, typically you have an MOU, parties come together and they agree to sign the MOU. You sign the MOU, and then after stakeholders sign the MOU, then you come together and you craft your program. And then after you have signed the MOU and you craft your program, then those that have actually crafted the program identify that you go forth. Because after you have crafted the program, you then know who will actually go forth and do what you need to do after the MOU has been signed, after you have identified your program materials or what you're going to do, your objectives, your next steps, and then those entities, those individuals that are going to go forth and do the actions identified out of the MOU and then the programming that you're actually going to be doing. So I kind of feel like we're doing this backwards. I've not ever seen it done this way before.
Can I?
So I just kind of want some clarity.
Fair. I think my clarifying question would be that as far as I understand the MOU is that it's quite narrow in scope, and it's really just the only reason that the MOU exists and would be updated and renewed is to determine how the DCF everything does not have to go to DCF first to then boomerang back here. It's creating a more efficient route without lag time that can impact families. So as far as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but that's the kind of the entirety of the MOU is just the directing of how the referrals can route, and basically a route around the way the statute directs those referrals to occur otherwise. So I don't think that the MOU speaks to the programming itself, the model itself, the responsibilities of all of the entities, but just specifically the referral from the 1006 point to what next step does that trigger?
Yet I believe the current MOU identifies the partners that are currently at the table and are currently engaged in the programming. So the current MOU that is signed by Susan Valdez identifies the partners that are currently engaged in the programming and how they're actively partnering. So that's why I'm slightly confused about.
So I'd offer two things. Normally we do the MOU last. We develop a program proposal, make sure that we have clarity of roles and responsibilities, and then we do an MOU. The reason why an MOU was done last time was because there was a lot of conversations that had happened earlier around truancy and truancy programming that are probably not necessary in a more streamlined model. So, and then at the same time, we wrapped in some clarification around DCF's role. So we don't have MOUs for every program we do with every partner and stakeholder that we work with. So in my view, we would make sure we have consensus on the program model, and then we would go forward and prepare the documents that speak to that.
So to that point, should we take a step back and ensure that we have all stakeholders at the table, that everyone understands the program components, and then finalize our MOU?
We've had conversations with DCF and the district attorney's office. I don't think that delay is needed.
I got a question about the budget proposal for 2027 for the group.
Sure.
The text says they're still working with CSC to provide truancy support. Secondly, they're requesting the dollar amount that's currently in the commissioner reserve for the fall of 26 be moved to the professional services line and not to salaries.
So the relationship with CSC, the agreement that the commissioners approved ended at the end of May, at the end of the school year. That was the transition year program that was provided. We have included the remainder of the budget in the youth services budget. I'm not sure. It's not.
Why does it say they're still working with CSC if the proposal is to not work with them?
I'll go back and look at the memo. If that's a typo, the program ended with CSC in May of 2026.
Well, it's in there for 2027.
In the memo in the packet?
No, in the budget.
Okay,
proposal.
The proposed budget was, I'll check the narrative and we can make sure that that's accurate. But no, the proposal would be that the funding for this program would go to youth services. And you all can discuss that next week when you start budget deliberation.
So we're going with Plan B, even though Plan A could be in effect.
It's not currently in effect in the county budget. So you all can discuss next week in your budget deliberations if you want to continue relationship with CSC.
But I understand where you're going. It's the point that budget deliberations begin next week, and we're having this conversation tonight, and yet we're going to be making decisions that could potentially impact what we are discussing this evening, that impact conversations we're going to have next week. And so it's the chicken before the egg.
I'd like to offer some comments. There is that tension, I think, right now between what we did with our budget dollars for the 2026 budget. That's what I'm hearing you say, Commissioner Anderson, and this upcoming 2027 budget. I think it's, as we've talked about a couple times here, this commissioner's budget has really put us in this spot, and it's not a great thing. We're learning lessons about it. In reflecting on our last meeting and our discussion about it, I went away disappointed, and I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about what my disappointment was. And, and I think the thing that I'm feeling right now is we have a whole lot of people in our community who want to get kids attending school. And we have a school board member here. We have community partners. We have criminal justice services. We have the DA. And I will tell you, as someone who was an educator for 31 years and worked in the Lawrence Public Schools for many, many years, I would have died to have this many people caring about attendance for kids. I mean, I work directly with Aaron on a regular basis, and I think sometimes we felt like we were the only ones who cared, right? And I'm really, what I was frustrated was in this moment is we've made it about winners and losers, and that's leaving our kiddos behind. So it isn't, I do have some expertise in this space. And it isn't that case management is good and mentorship is bad. There are a lot of ways we can help kids stay in school. There's parent education, there's truancy court, which some of you know I'm a huge fan of and would really love to see it. But all of those are going to take resources. And I know what it's not going to take. It's not going to take different partners fighting with each other over who gets this money. And that's what I left really frustrated about. And I think as a commission, yes, we have to think about the 2027 budget and think about if we've got this much energy and excitement, if we've got school board members attending county commission meetings, if we've got partners who want to be engaged, that needs to tell us something about where our community's priorities are. I'm hoping, my hope is, as I got out of my funk about it, is that what this is a wake-up call for us to sort of figure out what we're going to do for the next 6 months for this fall semester, and how can we continue to work together to provide the best services we can. It doesn't necessarily, this whole thing about, well, that's the county side and that's the school district side, that's important, but it's really not coming together about how we help kids as a community. And so I'm holding to my vote still because I really understand and respect the position that we put staff in to make a decision. But I'm going to push hard on us during the budget time to be thinking about how do we involve all these people who are excited about helping kids go to school. It is a major issue for our schools. How do we engage everybody to be thinking about all the different types of interventions that we can do? What's our role to play? I'm going to say it because Bob's here. I want the school district to be more involved in that discussion. You know, how do we do it together? It may take more school district funds. It may take more county funds, but we got to work together. And I think there's the potential to do that and really create a great system. There are lots of ways to work on this problem, and to say one is better than another, which is what I heard tonight. I can tell you professionally, it's just not true. Over in Missouri, they give laptops to kids if they stay in school. Like, there's lots of things you can do. That's why they have a large 3-day conference that I've been to multiple times to try to figure out how to solve it. One person doesn't solve it. One organization doesn't solve it. It's going to take us collaborating and working together. And I hope that this discussion, and it's gone on way too long, we haven't got into a spot where we're divided.
You all put up with my farming illustrations pretty regularly. I'm going to do a firefighter or fire analysis here. So that's that's what was going through my head when I was listening to the conversation up here from a couple of weeks ago. You show up and there's the head of the fire where you see the most flame, thinking of grass fire, right? The head of the fire where it's moving fast and it's the highest flame. And all of us are here on scene saying somebody should do that. But we, the county, have been assigned to the left flank, and the school district, I think, is at the head of that. Everybody has a piece. Everybody has a role to play. When we're working together, we do a lot better with that. But what we can't do is say our limited resources have to be everywhere when there are other partners that need to be working on it too and are working on it too. or to divert our resources to try and do a little bit here on every part of the fire. Like we were assigned the left flank, and we need to do that to the best of our ability as well as we can. Once we have that under control, we can see if there are resources that can be allocated to other parts of the fire. We've spent a lot of time saying, the flames are over there and we need to be doing that. There are a lot of other partners in here that have been very keen to say what the county should be doing on our flank with our dollars. But in no case did and had those conversations of, do you want to pay for that? Do you want to pay for that? Do you want to pay? No, we want to tell the county how to allocate their funds. There are a lot of partners in here, and we didn't have that energy before, and now we do. And I think that that's a huge benefit. But you're right. I think the conversation has been a fair amount of finger pointing, and it's not that this approach is bad or this approach is good. Like, what is, and that's what I kind of focused my thoughts in on since I watched the meeting from a couple of weeks ago, is what is our role within this big grass fire, and how do we do that the best way possible with the resources that we have and the resources we can allocate to it. And it's not a judgment that any of these other pieces are bad or wrong, just that they're not ours at this moment. And that's what led me to leaning into the expertise of the staff that we asked to work on this, and recognizing that they have been really responsive to what do other partners need and what are they doing. This isn't the end all be all, and it's not supposed to be. Like, this isn't central county work. This is something we care about. We care about because we care about our kids, but we're not in this alone. And I really think, to your point, to call all our partners to task to say, continue to do these services, do them in your best capacity. This will be, in my opinion, this gives us a way forward so that instead of just talking about it, we can get down to business and do the work to the best of our ability.
And that's one of the reasons why I still think that it should live with our community partners, is because of the budget. I do think that it's going to take more resources and more capacity for Kate and team to do this work. And as I've said before, and as Commissioner Dorsey has said before, I do see that the budget is going to balloon and it's going to require more resources. And as I've been reviewing the budget, Senior Resource Center's budget has ballooned, and I don't want to see the same thing that we have seen with the Senior Resource Center happen with this particular program. When if it stays with the community partners they are tasked with managing their own budgets and figuring things out, and only coming to us with limited asks and sometimes one-time asks, sometimes expansions, sometimes ongoing, but for the most part, we have I'm going to call it a privilege of saying yes or no, and not having these budgets that just continue to expand from the county's perspective, because these are departments. And so that's one of my larger worries, is that because this is not still sitting at the local level with a community partner, is that Kate's and team that we are going to have increased resource capacity, and then that ask is going to grow. And it's not just going to be what we see on paper today.
Commissioners, I just want to make a point to, this came up during our discussion last time too, and it's an important one to me, which is that we as commissioners really respect the work and expertise of staff. And so right now, given the totality of circumstances right now, this is the proposal, and this is the best forecast of what it will cost to begin this program. There's always the possibility that it will cost more. There's possibility that it could cost less. It may not seem like a very likely possibility, but it is one. And so I think that it's very important to respect that staff have expertise in doing this budgeting for their departments all the time and determining what is feasible and what is possible within the capacity of the dollars allocated to them. And sometimes, every once in a while, those projections are off, and we learn that 6 months down the road. We learn it 2 budget cycles later, perhaps when things drastically change and we need to look at a different number. That's always a possibility, but in my mind, that's not a reason to say no to something out the gate. And I also think it's important for us as commissioners to not be trying to be prescriptive to staff about what number of FTEs or dollars they add to a proposal they brought to us. Our job is to say yes or no to a proposal and wait for the next appropriate time that we are receiving information about how that's going, what we're learning, and if there are any unmet needs that we didn't realize before.
I would just say, to Commissioner Anderson's point, I definitely feel that tension too. So those are, if this were easy, it would have been done a couple weeks ago. There are a lot of really difficult pieces to this, which is why we've talked about it for a year. But we did make the first part of this decision a year ago. So it isn't that we're making it before budget. So we made it a year ago at last year's budget that we were looking at directions that would work within this dollar amount. And so I don't know if we're ready for a motion. Look at the
Commissioner Kelly just said one way isn't better than another, so I don't believe we should be picking one way. I think a combination of both ways would be a better way to go.
Commissioner Dorsey, point taken. And I think to Commissioner Kelly's point, that those are threads for us to continue pulling on in our conversations coming up in the next couple of weeks of budget session and into the future. But right now, the decision before us is a pretty narrow decision and one that has been acknowledged by many people, including you, Commissioner Dorsey, as a time-sensitive thing, given where we are at in the calendar year and the closeness to the school year resuming. So I believe that it's important to make this decision in some degree of isolation from the future discussions we're going to have about all of the proposals in front of us for 2027. And we may be deciding to give staff different direction for how to think about this going into next year. That is a possibility, but I don't believe that it should stop our action on this item, which has been before us for a while now. Commissioners, I'm ready for a motion. I think that lots of comments and clarifying positions have been made, and I think that it's time to call it for a vote.
I move to approve the implementation of Everyday Counts truancy program and authorize the release of the truancy fund balance of $87,500 from the commission budget to criminal justice services.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
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 Okay. The motion passes 3-2. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. Thank you, community partners and public for being here. We look forward to continued robust discussions and hope that they get healthier and more productive along the way. With that, commissioners, we are done with our regular business agenda for the night and moving on to appointments, which I don't think we have any quite queued up for. Maybe some in the works, but so with that, I think we'll just move right along to the commissioner and administrator miscellaneous and have Sarah summarize her memo for us.
Thank you, commissioners. My memo is attached. We have a drug court graduation tomorrow at 4 o'clock here in this room. The 2025 annual report for the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council is in your packet, so I encourage commissioners to take a look at it. Let us know if you have any questions or want any follow-up on any particular items. Also, in the packet is the June policy update from Little Government Relations. As was mentioned earlier, we start on Monday, July 6th at 9 a.m. with our budget hearings. And we will meet every morning next week, starting at 9 a.m., hopefully ending around noon. Next week's 5:30 meeting does not have a work session, so we will come back though at 5:30 that evening for our regular business agenda and for provide the public with an opportunity to provide public comment to us during our budget deliberations. And then we will continue with budget deliberations starting the week of July 13th. Commissioners, I stand for any questions.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah? Any other miscellaneous items, commissioners?
Yeah, I got a few. What's the status of our audit for 2025?
We're getting very close to being done, but I don't have it yet. The auditor, it's still with the auditors.
They're still working on it?
Yes.
Have we paid them yet?
I think we made a first installment payment. This is our normal cycle. Our audit is normally not done until closer to August.
It would be nice to have that before we start talking about budget.
I agree. I can't get the auditors work any faster.
I have a little update from EDC. We met last Friday. Thanks to Commissioner Dorsey for attending. There is continued discussion about how that organization is structured, and we had I don't know how to say this, a graphic. Is that a good way to say it, Sarah and Jean? And that was the motion that was made, that we would do what was on the graphic. And it passed. I will ask Sarah to send you that graphic so you have some idea of at least the way that it's heading. Good, robust discussion about the relationship between the Chamber and the Economic Development Corporation continuing. There's a lot of people who are doing a lot of work to try to get some clarity around this. So I don't want to downplay the graphic. It sort of sounds like I was joking, but that's where we started. We need to get more details, and I just received notice, and Sean and I think are going to be able to attend of another meeting of the EDC later this month, and it seems like it's getting a little more clear what that's going to be like. But there's been a lot of people working on this. A lot of progress has been made, and I think it is going to be a little tricky during our budget discussion to figure out if we allocate money to the EDC, who it's going to, and I just want us to be prepared for those questions. And it was, Jean might have some other comments about the EDC.
Not at this time.
But I think it will be helpful in our budget discussions that he was there to sort of give that perspective.
I might bring up something maybe you have more history on, but I was reading the code today, and in our code still, there's a 7-member committee for economic development that the county appoints 3 people to, the city 3, and 1 joint appointee. And as near as I can tell, that's never existed in my history with county business.
That is true. It's a historical leftover of the Eco Squared initiative that was needs to be edited. But yeah, it was an old initiative related to Eco Squared.
Yeah.
Eco Squared is a good read, however, if anybody wants to go back and look through it. I think it was from late 90s.
The reason I brought it up is they were talking about a committee at the meeting, and I thought, well, looks like there's already a committee that's inactive.
Yeah, I will just say the older I get, the more I see things come back around. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I was not aware of that, Commissioner Dorsey. Thanks for bringing that up.
I think it's section 8 in admin or something like that.
An interesting read. Cool.
Yeah, the Eco Squared, if anybody wants to know, was a mixture of economic development and ecology, and it brought some partners together, especially around annexation, to talk about, instead of what's the win-win to be had here. And I thought there were great conversations. It's a good read. It unfortunately kind of fell apart long before my time, but I've still had. It still kind of lives in the popular imagination of those that were on it, and there's still good lessons there.
And I'm on the sustainability committee of the EDC, and it's come up a lot. Like, what happened about that? Why? I do think one of the challenges for it was how do we sustain it? And I think there was some interest in a specific sales tax for it, and there just wasn't the appetite for that at that time.
If I remember right, I think maybe it fizzled out at about 2008 with the housing crash, because it was supposed to go for a sales tax to support it, and it had support from the development community and the ecological community, at least somewhat, and then there just wasn't the appetite to make that funding happen. But that's my understanding of it. I see all of it was for my time, but there were some good lessons to be learned there. It might be worth rereading.
Eco Squared's before my time, and I think I've been here longer than most folks. So
we brought this up a number of weeks ago, and I frankly don't recall exactly what we decided, but we said in effect we have a moratorium on mega data centers. And I think maybe at the time somebody expressed some interest in a ban on cryptocurrency mining. Anyway, I was wondering if you went to the attorney to see what it would take to do either of these things, and if not, could you?
Staff has been in consultation with the attorney's office and they're doing research now.
Okay. Do you
Then
have-
we agreed in that meeting that we had that we would wait till after the Clarion diagnostic
Oh,
came back
okay.
to have further conversations around that. And you're scheduled to have that come to you, if I can stay on track, mid-July. We have just gotten the materials from Clarion. So my hope is that we will get that to you in mid-July. So then we can follow up after that. But there's still a lot of work here yet to be done.
Okay, thanks.
Along the lines of sales tax that you were just talking about, I had a conversation with Sarah around sales tax and looking to find opportunities like how can we encourage revenue around dollars that people are already spending. And so I was talking to Sarah around fireworks. And so knowing that many of our other counties have opened up fireworks sales earlier than what Douglas County currently opens up their fireworks. I asked Sarah if there's an opportunity for us to next year take a look at opening up our fireworks sales earlier, maybe to match what some of our other counties are doing to maximize our sales tax, our revenue associated with fireworks sales, because many are going outside of Douglas County to purchase fireworks. And so we're losing that revenue. And so I would like Sarah to work with,
Work with zoning and code
Okay.
to update the research on what surrounding counties are doing in terms of fireworks sales. And bring that back to the commission and determine if they want to crack open that piece of the code.
if that's something everyone would be willing for Sarah and zoning and codes to bring before us to see if that would be worthwhile for us to take a look at and bring in some additional revenue because people are already spending that money.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've had conversations about the firework code here. I think we just redid it, or we made some updates
years
about
ago.
2-3 years ago. So I think it's totally fine to sort of dust it off and take a look at the last couple of years of research and data that we have. Maybe later in this year, before the end of the year, if possible, to get an idea of what this year's sales tax dollars look like related to that and how it might compare. So it's a valid point.
Public Works and fire departments might be want to be part of the conversation too. but
Agreed. Yeah,
game.
especially the conversation we had today about the Home Depot buckets. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order this evening, commissioners? Okay, we are adjourned. Let's go watch soccer.